Mm.
Well, good morning and good afternoon. And no, Dr. B has not gone off the deep end. Uh, Rita, my Wirtz, who I'm interviewing, is sitting there in the Pacific time zone. And it's still morning there. And I'm sitting here in the Central time zone, and it's afternoon here. So good morning and good afternoon. Uh, we're going to be doing an interview with Rita, or I'm going to be doing an interview with Rita in just a second. Let's just take a quick look. Please do. There'll be a link to her website. She has done these three books and even more: Reading Champions, Reading Champs, Teaching Reading Made Easy. So please do visit her site. And she's going to have a lot to tell us today about not just what's in her books, but also the wonderful experiences she's had and the wonderful things she's done in the area of reading. So what I'm about to do next is say, Dr. B, be quiet, and let Rita introduce herself. So Rita, take it over.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rita Wirtz here in beautiful Eugene, Oregon, except for the pollen today, but it's always beautiful here. I love to read, as we all do, and my joy in life has been to help teach not only children from preschool through adult, but also children and students, preschool through adult. And also along the way, I've been very, very privileged to be an adjunct professor at California State University in Sacramento. I taught school administration. And then for Chapman and National Universities, I taught nearly all the new teacher credential courses, in particular, all the literacy reading courses from kindergarten through 12th. I was a school principal, K-6 and also pre-6. And I student taught reading 7th, 8th. I taught high school English reading and speech. I taught high school reading lab. And after I was a principal, I was a curriculum consultant at Sacramento County Office of Education. And I made house calls to nearly 600 K-12 special needs classrooms where I co-taught with the teachers and modeled demo lessons. Along the way, I also worked for seminar companies and I keynoted across the country. So I've been around for a long time. And if I haven't had the privilege to meet you yet, I'm kind of sneaky sometimes, and I work behind the scenes to make everybody else look good. But my first and foremost concern is all children should be capable, confident readers who love to read, because reading is a joy forever. And that's what I'm about.
Okay, yeah, person after my own heart, and someone I've also done K through graduate school. So my goodness, very cut from similar bolts of cloth.
Just for
Okay,
fun, Sam, I went back and taught preschool under a literacy grant up until the pandemic, right before
I
the
I
pandemic.
haven't
That was a
done I haven't
trip.
done preschool, but I've done kindergarten. Okay,
Yeah. Okay.
well, first set of questions.
Okay.
Revisiting the National Reading Panel, something about the reading wars. I think you might have heard of that and the Great Debate,
Yeah.
and finding common ground, and science of reading and balanced literacy. So it's just that whole uh,
Mhm.
major topic of what's going on in your opinion. What are
Okay.
some of your takeaways about it? So take it over.
Okay. I'm a featured blogger for BAM Internet Radio as well. I have 172 blogs, I believe, up there. About half of them are about reading and literacy. And in many of them, I talk about what happened and how did we get to a point where it just never ended. There's always a reading war from the time that Shaw wrote her book, Reading the Great Debate, and it was revisited by Reggie Routman earlier. After that, but earlier than the last round of Science of Reading. So the bottom line is I've been blessed because I taught DISTAR reading mastery, not my thing. I worked with Words in Color. I worked with ITA, Initial Teaching Alphabet, Pittman, England. I don't think there's ever been a program I didn't have my hands on, but I am a whole language teacher. I am a believer in balanced literacy. I know the pendulum swing is swinging away again, and there's nothing new to me. We've been dealing with code versus meaning all these years, for over 100 years, and the pendulum just swings one way and another. The sad part to me is that we're not seeing all kids wanting to read. And my belief is that we learn to read, then we read to learn, and we learn to read better and faster. So I spend a lot of time in my work dealing with the fact that we have not looked closely enough at visual perceptual skills and the mechanics of reading. We need to take another look at level books and fluency, all the testing that's gone on. So I'm very outspoken on a number of issues because I've seen this all, and I've done it over and over and over. And again, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus or the baby out with the bathwater. But my big issue with science of reading, well, there's two things that I want to mention right off the top. Number one, I don't teach nonsense words at all, except for in phonemic awareness. Then I might do some rhyming, back to Dr. Seuss, hop on pop kind of thing. Also, B-A bay, B-E-B, B-I-Bidabo. So I might do some rhyming, but I don't believe we should teach nonsense words after that. And I also don't believe they should use in any testing situation to say where a student should be grouped. That bothers me terribly. The other part that really gets to me is retaining kids, and third is back and never really left. Third is the cut, but I'm vehemently opposed, especially during the pandemic, to retaining children. Instead, we need
Okay,
to group them.
I'm gonna chime right in there.
Okay,
And
go for it.
readers out there,
Right.
I'll put a link to my current blog in this
Mhm.
one, and I deal with all that. And P.L. Thomas has done some terrific research and work to show what happens to children of color with
Mhm.
these retention policies.
Yes.
So I think we are in very strong agreement about that. And of course, the science of reading people say, but that wasn't our original invention. But on the other hand, they are the ones that support it. So,
Yes.
and I have some things to say about that as well. So, I, having now put my little plug in for my views about that, and they are considerable, and it seems we run along similar lines here.
Yes.
Uh, can we get into the 5 areas of reading instruction and
Yes.
why
I
they
wanted
matter?
to go back to the National Reading Panel.
I'm sorry. Go. Well, do
Well,
that
it's
and then
there.
jump
It's
into
there.
the five things.
Yeah.
Okay.
National Reading Panel identified the 5 areas. So these all go together like peas and carrots. Okay.
Okay.
So again, we look at reading and we see the big global picture, and then we're picking at it in the analytic. Well, the visual perceptual pieces of reading have to be in there, and I do a lot of work with that. In fact, right now we're working on a session for Everyone Academy in Morocco. It would be my 6th appearance. And we are doing a thing with Gail and Paul Dennison from Brain Gym, and I'm going to be combining Brain Gym skills as a way to help better enter those reading mechanics. For example, eye teaming, for example, tracking, etc. We can't really talk about fluency unless we talk about tracking, and many children are having issues with their tracking and making their fixations and going backwards, fixation backwards, etc. So I stick with a National Reading Panel. A few years ago, people started to say, oh, it was no good either. But what could be not good in the National Reading Panel? It talks about phonemic awareness. Yes, we know we need to know the sounds. That's a given. Talks about phonics. Who has not taught phonics? My first book, Reading Champs, that I finished in 14, it's one phonics skill after another and how to teach them with mini lessons. And then in my newest book, Reading Champions, this is a second edition. And when it first came out in 2002, I was working with San Diego County Office of Education. They were filming me going in cold and teaching classes, the basic skills from National Reading Panel, what they said. So it went like this. We have phonemic awareness. We have phonics. We never stopped teaching phonics. We have vocabulary. We've never stopped teaching vocabulary. We may differ in how we do it, but we're going to do vocabulary. I'm very big on teaching spelling. I also am a hypnotist certified, no, it sounds weird, and an NLP practitioner, yes, and then I've had 2 levels of Brain Gym instruction for myself. In any event, all these things that go together make me take another look and go, well, there's nothing in the National Reading Panel, again, that doesn't make sense. So vocabulary in part, I'm going to work with that in spelling, and I'm going to use some things from NLP as well to help the students focus, pay attention, and remember. All right, so then we also have to have fluency, of course. And to be fluent reader, it's more than just how many words they speak in a minute or 2 minutes when they're outside in the hallway and they're freaked out and they're on nonsense words. I'm vehemently opposed to that. And then to group them by ability because of that, no way. Really, we need to group based on skills known and unknown and continually regroup kids. Ideally, we do a school within a school and we are able to move children up and down at will, what skills they need to know, because that's where we are. So if we look at it again, we've got phonemic awareness, we have phonics, we have vocabulary, we have spelling, we have fluency, and we have, of course, comprehension. Because the goal of all reading is to what? To get meaning. And so whether it's infotext that we're reading or we're reading for fun, junior novels or anything that they want to read, honestly, I'm okay. And if we think it's too high a level, then we better scaffold it, because I don't believe in children being limited by the levels on books. I know Dave Pilkey had said the same thing about level books. So that's where I am. The other things in the National Reading Panel that were poo-pooed were about sight words and cueing. I believe that a teacher, everybody's a reading teacher now, as I've been saying since we closed down shop the first time, but everybody needs to know how to do prefixes and suffixes, for example, how to do a book walk and how to get into the reading. And this is nothing new. And I don't see any problem with having cueing as a strategy or sight words as a strategy. It's just that's not our primary strategy. But in balanced reading, it was never one thing. It was always balanced literacy. And so it
Okay,
just,
and I'm gonna chime in here with a couple more, a
please,
couple of points, and then go on to the other questions you asked me to deal with. And the
okay.
most important thing here is that balanced literacy actually was created in order to make sure that there was a balance between, it was a way of bringing phonics back in. It wasn't a
Yes,
way to eliminate phonics. I
no,
think if you deal with what Presley and others were doing
yes,
back then, they were very much in favor of phonics. Now,
yes,
I have worked for people way back in the day that were absolutely anti-phonics, and those people existed back when I did my dissertation about the reading wars. But
right.
today, you'd be hard pressed to find anyone that says no phonics. Everybody, it's not no phonics, it's which kind and for whom. So
Mhm.
with that little interjection, and I have a new front tooth and it's not working very well. Interjection. Yes, it'll come out for right now too. It's been a bit of a thing. Okay, but let's go. Let me turn things back over to you and then ask about your last little round of things like cueing and sight words and leveled reading and readability and any other hot topics you want to deal with. So it's all you again.
Well, they're all hot topics, and it shouldn't be. Uh, the bottom line is that we all probably know KWL, know, want to know, learn, what Ogle did in the 70s. But we've added on to that, know, want to know, learn, what do I know now, and where am I going to get it? So we have certain strategies that work across the board in all content areas, and we should be teaching reading across disciplines. And that is why, in part, I say that every teacher is a reading teacher, has to be, because if you have students that are in junior and senior high or adult ed that didn't get it the first time, more of the same isn't going to do the job. So I say that we have to know, again, all of these things. Am I saying that everybody has to go back and get a master's in reading? Well, I did when they couldn't read in English in high school. That's why I did that. But not everybody has to do that. But we do all need to have resources available and know how to teach the basic reading skills. It's not baby. If I'm teaching in a high school classroom, biology, chemistry, could be anything, but it's got reading and content, and that's what's messing up the kids. Then certainly we want to work on vocabulary, prefix, suffixes, word origins, etc. So it's all part of the same thing to me. There's no distinction where we go, oh, we don't do cueing anymore. That's a poor way to teach. Well, why? Is it, does it sound right? Does it look right? Does it make sense? If I don't have any idea as a student, well, that strategy doesn't work and I'm going to grab something else. I'm not teaching everybody that strategy is the way to do it. But it's a piece of the repertoire, and that's what we're looking at as teachers, having a full-on toolkit, and they have to know all of those basic areas.
Okay, and I'm detecting someone else that probably did teach the content area reading course. Am I
Yes.
correct about it? I thought you might have. Okay.
How did you know what was most interesting? I like to co-teach, and I co-taught K-12 reading for 2 years with Dr. Joanne Hammer, the assistant superintendent in Roseville School District. And Joanne and I had a great time, but when we first put them together, they're like, why do I need to know this? Or why do I need to know this? And then by the time we really got going, they're like, man, this is really great. I know what I'm doing now.
Okay. Now, so I want to now make the readers aware again. I'm going to do a share screen here. Uh, you've got a lot of resources on your website. You've got the blog,
Right.
and we're going to link to that.
Well,
Great
these are
ideas.
different. Let me tell you a little bit about the stories about this.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, the backstory. I have many books I've written and many seminar books, but these are the books that are currently up on Amazon. Reading Champs, I started in '08. It was a labor of love. And to be honest and personal, my husband was ill and I had to take care of him until I lost him. So I ended up finishing that book up in 14, Reading Champs. So when that book was done, I was really thrilled with it and had great reviews and all, but I ended up moving. So after that, in 19, making so many moves and changes in my life, I did Stories from a Reader's Heart. And this is a very beautiful book, but that is actually my memoir, not for my whole life, but a period of time. And I love it. I read it and it inspires me. And none of my books that you read cover to cover. You pick them up and you do book walks and you skim and dip in what you need and use it. So during the lockdown, I was getting kind of bored and blogging a lot, and I decided to pick out one of my out-of-print books and do something with it. So I decided to go with the original flagship Reading Champions, and this was just a dynamic exercise during the pandemic. I ended up having to finish it off in Acrobat. And why I love this book is it has all the strategies. I'm not going to open it and show you, but they're full pages and they're ready to be used. They can be given out and used like crazy. It's all activities that support those basic areas we talked about, the reading fundamentals, and it's full of just one strategy and one usable graphic organizer after another, just a treasure trove of stuff. So I hope people take a look on Amazon at the books, in particular the new Reading Champion second edition, because we all need this. It's just all set to go. So they're there.
Okay, and I'm going to piggyback off that and say a couple of last things here. In terms of teaching strategies, and we've now got people that say, oh, we don't need to anymore. And I deal with that in the blog that I just talked about. And basically, what Nell Duke's research clearly demonstrated, and she's not the only one, is that teaching reading strategies using the gradual release model, and
Yes.
that's the key. Using the gradual release model has, for 3 decades, clearly raised reading scores. No issue about it. And I wrote another blog that went into depth about the folks that say, oh no, all you need is background knowledge.
You need
there's a lot to say about that. Okay.
Thing that starts us off is all.
So I'm always glad to point my readers in directions of, here are some other things to do, but with the warning that if you're not doing it through gradual release, if you're not teaching these kids to actually use the strategy,
Yes.
then you're going nowhere. But if you're getting them to internalize and use the strategy, you're going somewhere. So now's a great time, and I'm going to be quiet for one more time and say it's now a good time for final remarks and thoughts before we say our goodbyes here. Okay. So it's all you again for final thoughts and remarks.
Thank you. I'm going to piggyback on what you just said. Everything is about teaching for transfer. If you don't have the transfer and the student can't do something with it, then they haven't really learned it, have they? So that's always the chicken and the egg. The teacher hasn't taught it, they haven't learned it, or if they haven't learned it, did the teacher teach it? But I am a constructivist. I do want to get that in at the end. I believe that learning is a search for meaning, and that's what reading is all about, is meaning. So when we have children as more of the designers of their own learning and the determiners of what they want to learn to read and what they enjoy reading, we need to let them do so, whether it's digital or it's holding the book in their hand. It's just a beautiful thing, and I want to encourage everybody. I also want to say one last thing. However someone wants to teach and it's working for them, I'm all for it. What I'm most concerned about is to continually change what we're doing and have teachers forced to sit through academies on things that they don't believe in, that they're not going to want to do, and they'll just shut their door and say this too shall pass. And I don't believe in buy-in. So I just want to make sure that we all know that I'm for whatever teachers believe is working, and if it's working, don't throw it out, keep it. And there we go.
Okay. Uh, I, I'll put I always take care to put that phrase within the boundaries of the district policies. So
Yes.
they're not off on their own doing just whatever they
No,
very well please. But
no,
the other part of things is it's back to the first grade studies of all those years ago.
right.
And in the first grade studies, and we discovered that all those years ago, good teachers get good results. That's the bottom line. And teachers make more difference than programs. And
There we go. I've never met a program that taught kids. It's always about the teacher.
so the key here, I think, to success is getting professional development and getting a lot of things in that teacher's toolbox.
Yes,
And I think your books will provide teachers out there with just some more things to put into their toolbox. So
yes.
I really want to thank you for taking the time out to talk here. And now we have a silly little Bomberito tradition. And the silly tradition is this. At the end of every interview, I do a Zoom wave goodbye. So we're about to just wave goodbye to all of our listeners out there, and it's a wave. So
Keep
Zoom wave
reading,
goodbye.
keep
Happy.
modeling.
Okay. Thank you
Happy
so much.
everything. Thank
And
you so much, ma'am.
that's a wrap.